Hello and welcome. Today I want to talk about some of the EDC gear that I use at work. I work in the parks and sometimes we do trail stewarding. We go on rescues to find lost and injured hikers, and rarely, but sometimes we also go up to fight forest fires. Now for reference, I'm not a forest fire fighter. I'm just a regular average Joe, and sometimes I find myself in these extraordinary situations. And with the gear that I have, I make do with what I got. So let's get started. Here we have the Mule NV camelback system. This is a 2012 model. I've had this for 10 years and I've used it on and off, mainly for bicycling and day packing basically. And it's a very good backpack for that because it has a lot of comfortable things for me on my back and features that I enjoy. On the front here, we have a front zipper, which I don't keep anything in the front pocket. Secondary pocket here on the outside. I have a pair of work gloves, which I use to grab the handle of the sked, or basically a rescue basket. It's this big orange basket with a single wheel on it, and we use it to transport injured and incapacitated people down or up the mountain, depending on the trails we take. I have some extra cordage in here, just a quick 10 feet to grab, hand sanitizer, and also I have some DEET as well. So that can be handy during the tick season when we have to go through bushes and whatnot to find lost hikers or injured people, and also when we're working on the fire line. Now for reference, I don't work on the very front lines, I work on the secondary lines, which we dig a fire line down to mineral soil or the bedrock. And we were up at the Napanock fire about a month and a half ago working on that, and I was hedge trimming one of the days I was up there. It was pretty rough, pretty humid, and we go through these bushes to clear out everything. It's like a jungle almost, and we have to basically make a whole new trail, so to speak, but dig it down to the bedrock. So it takes a lot of work, a lot of going through bushes and potentially high hazardous places that have ticks. So that's why I carry DEET and other types of chemical bug repellents on me. Now on the bottom of the bag, I do have a rain cover for the bag itself in this little zip pouch here. I don't use it that often, and when it does rain, I'll deploy it out on the bag here. It covers the whole bag, which is kind of nice. So if you're bicycling, you can keep your stuff dry. In the secondary pouch here, this is a bigger external pocket where you can house your helmet or other items. In this case, I have a core EDC bag. This is the Vanquest FTIM 6x9 Generation 2 EDC pack. And I've used this out on rescues, on the fire line also, and just for general trail steward work and around town as well. On the back of it, I do have another strap which I can just put it on my persons and carry it as is in case I have to put my bag down or ditch it for whatever reason. I have a secondary carrying method. On the handle here, I have some paracord wrapped. On the side here, we have a pen light combo. This is a rechargeable pen light, so I can use this as a quick access writing device or a pen light. And on this side, I have a Dozer K-bar knife. It's a cheap knife, but it's a full tang knife and it gets the job done for what I need it to do. On the front pouch here, we have a Velcro holder, and inside of it I have some DEET bug wipes, an Ouchie Boo Boo little baby medical kit, and some toilet paper and hand sanitizer. I'm not going to go too much more to depth with this pack, but I'll open it up briefly and go over what's inside. We have a variety of tools here. We have chapstick, some candy and sugar in case my sugar levels drop, charging cables, fire starting materials, headlamp, a Leatherman Rev, whistle, SOL whistle with mirrors taped to it for signaling, fire starting candles and stormproof matches, sewing needles, lighter, more cordage, about 50 feet worth of cordage in there, a variety of 95-pound and 325-pound. We also have the water filtration system here. We have another Lite, a Lumitop 2.0. I have a variety of different tools in here as well, and then I have a silver bag filled with the Yaesu Vx 1R dual band ham radio, along with the charger cable for it, the USB battery bank, which I can charge it from, which is also a solar battery bank, and the i1R2 EOS pill light inside of this EMP CME proof bag. Behind it I have a basic toothbrush for hygiene. I also keep a secondary cutting knife. This is a Victorinox type of knife, so this does have some high quality scissors and a good quality blade, along with another secondary lighting element here and some tweezers to pull out splinters, so it complements my Leatherman Rev pretty good. And then I also have a regular Zippo lighter with the butane insert, and behind that, all this stuff, I'm not going to take it out, but I do have extra Mylar blanket, another handkerchief, and a couple other survival type of items in the back pouches here. And that is my core EDC kit, which I use as a survival kit and a daily kit for all my needs at the office and out on the trails. I talk about these kits quite a lot, so you can definitely see my other videos on them. The other item I have in this pouch is a Motorola MT2000. This is a older VHF type of radio, 136 to 174 megahertz radio, and I have a wideband antenna attached to it, and this is set up for MURS frequencies, which we use as our internal channel system for our part communications. And we also have a external microphone here. This is the Commander 2 microphone attached to it, and it routes to the front on the front strap here with the channel changing knob and the push to talk button here. Has good audio, has a good way of hearing my voice. Even if I'm not talking directly on access to the mic, you can still pick up my voice pretty decently, so that's why I use it, and I've routed it through here. I have a little S-binder here for mounting other options. So that is a very useful communication tool. I've used it out on the fire line and also out during rescues to relay information when our cell phones don't work, and obviously a very useful tool out in the parks for general use. In the front here, I do have the Victorinox Huntsman Lite, and I keep it in this old Leatherman pouch. This has a little mini light on it with interchangeable batteries, and it does have high quality scissors, which has come in handy, especially on the fire line. Small story with this particular scissors is that we were on the fire line, and one of the people who were doing chainsawing with our group, we were hedgers and chainsawers cutting through, making a fire line. They fell and the chainsaw hit their chaps, and the chaps worked. It gunked up the chainsaw, and I took part of the chainsaw, which had all the fibers in it, and we were able to use these scissors and cut out a lot of the fibers pretty quickly, get it back up and running right away. So this came in handy quite a few times out in the trail, even with the little saw on it as a backup cutting implement option. It was just fantastic to have this item with us, and it was easy access. And I do have this one modded out. It does have a ferrule rod on it for making fire, which I don't always use, but very lightweight and purpose-driven for my needs out in the trails. So it's good that I have this mounted on the front here. I can easily access it. Once again, I'm not a firefighter by any means, or forest firefighter. I just augment their teams. They call us up to help them out sometimes when they don't have enough manpower, usually in the region. And we almost never get posted on the very front lines where the fire is blazing. We need to have no mech stuff, no metal items, and a slew of other requirements. But we did have no mech gear on the secondary lines where we were working. We were working with dozers, DEC forest rangers, DEC foresters, and also a variety of other personnel up there, including EMTs. So that's the front of the pouch here. On the inside, we have a small pocket before we get to the inside here, which I don't really have anything in. It's felt lined, so you can put your glasses in there. I just have an extra lighter. Not something I would bring into a fire zone necessarily straight away, but in the secondary fashion, yes, as a survival tool. In the main pocket, I don't have too much. I keep it open for food and water mainly, and this is configured for a summertime outfit, so I don't have any extra layering clothing, but I do have my heavier duty work gloves, which I'll use for doing trail work with Picmatics, Pulaski's, combi tools, etc., things of that nature. And these also came in handy for digging the fire line to help my hands absorb some of the shock. So these are my basic generic work gloves. And I do have a Gatorade in here for electrolytes and also some extra food, which I carry, which are very useful for being on the trails. And that's it for the Camelback Mule NV 2012 model and all the items I have inside of it. Now, this isn't the only bag that I use when I go out and do work or have to go rescue people, but it is one of the more comfortable items that I do use, and it's lightweight and it can extend out and carry a combination of food, mainly water and Gatorade for my needs in the summer months. Next up are a few items that are on me. Mainly I carry a belt at work and I interchange a couple items with it. First up is a pocket protector, which I use in my shirt. It has a front pocket, obviously, and I put it in there. And these mount pretty nicely in there. Since I'm trail stewarding and working, sometimes I have to mark down a map for hikers to see. I have a mechanical pencil, I have an orange highlighter, which I got from work, and I got a fine tip Sharpie, which writes pretty well on the maps we have at work. And I have this O-Pen Pro, and this has a light in the front here, and it has various brightness levels. It's USB-C rechargeable, and it also includes a laser, which is very useful for group pointing on the map. So a group of people I can point out, you know, go over here, or during a rescue situation when we gather around a map potentially and update people on what's going on. It's easier to see a laser and follow it. So this is in a old used plastic pocket protector, which I beat the crap out of, and it still holds pretty well with some tape. Next up is the interchangeable mounting option, which I have for the belt. I have two knives I carry in this belt. One is the Victorinox Swiss Tool, and the other one is a Leatherman Super Tool 300. I'll try to go through this pretty briefly, as it's not a full review on the tool itself, but I do have a Maglite 2 AAA light on the outside of this. So I'll replace the light on my belt and the knife with this if I'm doing work at the park and I'm not going on the trails, just doing maintenance. But anyway, back to the Super Tool. We have a ruler here on the outside for measurements. We have centimeters and inches, and this opens up and you can access the tools on the inside. We have a kind of a needle nose type of plier head here. We have regular pliers here, and we have a replaceable cutters in the center here. And we have a wire crimper behind the head here. On this side of the tool, we have the basic knife. We have a slotted screwdriver, a long one, and a shorter flat one, which we can use as a lightweight pry bar. And we also have an awl with the eyelet. And we have the cross-hatched file here. It's not a diamond file like the Wave series, but it's a good enough file. On this side, we have the serrated blade. We have the combo can opener tool with a wire stripper function here. And we have the 3D truss screwdriver here, which works with the bit kit that I have for this particular model inside the pouch. And we also have another slotted screwdriver, flatter one here. And finally, we have the saw, which does come in handy for when I'm doing trail work. One of the things I will do is if I don't have an actual saw with me and I have my tools with me, they typically carry a saw on it, so I can do some corridor work along the trails, cut down any small light branches and things like that. So this does come in handy when I'm out on the trails at work in a variety of different situations. And also the bit kit we have for the Super Tool 300 and its proprietary bits here. Okay, getting on to the work belt. I usually wear this on me at all times because it has an IFAC system on it. But before we get to that, we'll start with the radio here. This is my EDC radio, the VX7R Yaesu radio. I talk about this a lot in my other videos. It's my favorite radio. It's a quad band radio, wide band reception. Has a dual band antenna on it, a 70 centimeter and 2 meter antenna. I use it for my ham radio communications. This is submersible, waterproof, and it has good reception capabilities for emergency uses. Sometimes when we go on emergencies, we don't always have the frequencies of the other team members, so I can turn this on, dial it into the local fire department frequency or the EMS frequency that they're still using analog with, and I can listen in on their systems and relay information from that on our own comm systems. So this allows interconnectability or interoperability, if you want to call it that, or whatever. It allows me to listen and gather information quickly than waiting for somebody to relay it to me. And also it's a pretty durable, rugged radio. Small story with this is I did use this radio on a rescue one time when my cell phone wasn't working. So there's a local ham radio repeater tower not far from where I am in the parks or where I work, and I was able to get on the repeater system during a net that they had there, and they luckily it was going on at the same time. So I told them, hey, look, I'm out here, I might have some emergency traffic pass potentially, stand by for me to listen for me, etc., etc. You get the idea. I was in communications at all times with this radio and the phone, and when the phone failed, I was able to use the radio. Moving along, we have a small little loop holder here and a retractable keychain. So I use this just to, my work keys here, to get in and out quickly instead of having to dig through my pockets to find the keys or have a whole bunch of keys jangling on my belt. I just use these two keys here so I don't lose my car keys or my house keys on the trail. I could just lose these, and we can replace these kind of keys. Next up is an optional item. I keep this for when we're trail stewarding usually, and when we go on rescues or do fire line stuff, secondary fire line stuff, or mop up duty. This is the Nitecore MS12 or M12s, and this is a 21700 battery operated light. It's very bright, has really good different low level moonlight modes and lower runtime modes, which is good for extended search times, and it also has good secondary modes like strobe and the beacon mode, which is really, really useful for just kind of marking my position. If I'm doing any kind of traffic duty, then I turn on the beacon mode, I slip it in my holster here, and it still shoots on the ground, so it kind of gives vehicle traffic warning that I'm around the area, or at least to look up and pay attention to me. So it's a good signaling device as well, and it comes in this really nice rugged hard plastic case, which is flexible as well, and it's a low profile type of case, so it fits on the belt pretty nicely. Now, if I'm doing maintenance for the day, I might carry this, or I might take the Leatherman Super Tool 300 and that Maglite and use that with me for the day instead of this, because I don't need something so big just to do inspections and whatnot around the camping area or the parks. Next up is a Livans medical kit, rip-away kit, so I can take this off, rip away, throw it to somebody, and unbuckle this. I have my shears in the front here, and I'm not going to go too much into depth with this kit, but just go over the basic stuff I have on here. I'm still working on getting the opening right with this one. Sometimes it gets caught, so I have to make sure it opens right there, and not the best thing in terms of emergencies, but here we go. We have the tourniquet here, and we have the ETD here, we have a tampon here, we have a Sharps marker, we have the S-roll gauze, we have a whistle here, we have hyphen chest seals in here, we have an I-102 EOS pill light, rechargeable micro USB light here, we have Victorinox signature light with the red LED with the scissors on here and the pen for writing as a backup duty item. We have the compass, we have the gloves, we have the lighter here as well, and underneath all this stuff we have a Walmart type of medical kit inside of it, an Ouchie Boo Boo kit, all the contents inside on the bottom there. So that's what we have for a basic IFAK kit, and when I'm working on the trails or I'm doing rescue duty or on the fire line, it's always a good idea to carry my own IFAK system in case the EMT that's usually attached to us is not there. Somebody else can just grab this kit and hopefully open it up better than what I did before and be able to treat any injured party. So that's why I carry an IFAK kit with me, and that is what I have on the belt at all times. Next up is the optional item, which we change in and out depending on what we're doing. This is for lightweight patrol duty, and it's the Victorinox Swiss Tool. I mentioned it before. The reason why I use this is that it's lighter than the Super Tool 300, and I don't necessarily need all the bits with it. So I'll carry this, which is a lighter weight type of option, but it still is a rugged item to use. You access the tools on the outside here. We have a slotted screwdriver with some wire strippers and cutters here. And then we have a flatter screwdriver, which is really a nice, like, lightweight duty pry bar. And then we also have the pen knife blade here. which is a nice blade to use, pretty sharp. Then we have the can opener here with a smaller slotted screwdriver at the tip. And then we have the saw, which does come in handy quite a lot. Again, I'm a big fan of saws and scissors, and I like having those on my knives on the trails. And also on this side, we have a 3D screwdriver here as well. And we have a smaller awl here for poking. And then we have a serrated blade here. And then we have a really tiny, small screwdriver here. And finally, we have a saw with different types of cross-hatching on it. And then the main tool here is a plier-based main tool here, which we have the somewhat of a snub nose, needle nose type plier here. And then we have the regular pliers here. And then we have a wire cutter here in the center. And also we have the ruler here, which tends to line up pretty well. We have inches, and then we also have centimeters as well. And I carry this tool, use it quite a lot. Definitely a good tool for its weight and size. And that's pretty much almost all the gear that I have, with the exception of one last piece of kit, which I sometimes use. I don't always use this, as I don't always have a need for it, and it's very heavy. I don't like carrying too much weight on myself. But this is the Becker BK tool. This is a 1095 Corvan steel type of knife. I use this for batoning wood and woodworking while in the parks. So there's a lot of different tricks you can use with this knife. But as you can see, I use it mainly for batoning wood and processing wood. We have a fireplace at the parks, and during the winter we don't have heat necessarily, so we use the fireplace to get heat in the office. And this is what I use to process the wood instead of carrying a hatchet or an axe. So this does the job pretty well. I don't always carry with me because it's just really heavy and bulky, and I don't like overdoing the weight. I'm already carrying a lot of stuff as is. So that's all the items that I use in the parks right now. I do have other items as well that I use. This is just the main stuff that I've been using lately, and some of the stuff that I used on the fire lines. Once again, it's kind of interesting being in the middle of, I guess, fighting a forest fire on the tail end of it, mop-up duty. You know, the ground smoking in front of you, and you're running around to check for any outbursts and stuff like that. There was a fire in Garrison that we were working on, and I used the Mule NV backpack with that setup, and we were just working to put out the fires there, and it would flare up every so often, but it wasn't really too dangerous in terms of myself being there and my coworkers. But I always recommend Nomex gear. I'm not a fire expert, but I know Nomex is pretty good protection against things like that. So it's an experience using some of this gear out in emergency situations and in daily work routine in the parks. I think the parks have given me a good perspective on what kind of works for myself and what doesn't. And again, what works for me may not always work for somebody else. So, but with that being said, I want to thank you for watching and enjoy your day. All right, so this is the setup we're using to film today. Not professional by any means, but we got a Panasonic GH2 there. And then over here we have the Panasonic GH4 set up as well. Let's get the screen back on here, running it off of external power. And we got the sound devices MixPre D. We got a couple of things going on up here. We got the Zoom H6. We got a testing unit of the Video Micro from Rode. Got that plugged in there with the VXLR Plus port, giving it power, turning the 48 volts to a 5 volt power source for the microphone. And we just have the GH4 here. And of course the setup where we're going to film. And then the wireless lab system is a Lectrosonics CR185 VHF unit with a Tram 50 mic. And here's the B-roll camera. Definitely not a professional setup at all, but we're playing around with a bunch of gear today, seeing how it works. The setup on this is like a Frankenstein setup, so it's not professional by any means. We don't have this plugged in right now, so I'm kind of just leaving it hanging there. So that is the setup for filming today.